Morning. Good morning. You're at Building Forward. My name's Christiana. Joining me today is Emily Barony. Emily is the founder of Visionality Partners. I happen to be the senior project manager here at Visionality. We started this Building Forward series just to have quick 25-minute opportunities to share things that have either been bothering us, inspiring us, things that we've been seeing throughout the nonprofit sector that needs to be discussed, but otherwise just kind of serving as a sometimes sassy sounding board for things that are affecting the nonprofit sector. Some opportunities for us to speak are sassier than others, but we promise to do all of this within 25 minutes or less. And so we are going to get our phones started right now. And perfect. So with that, today's topic is how stop investing so much money in your programs and start investing in your people. So we're really going to be talking about this from a lens of productivity today. So there's all your P's, people, products, productivity, programs.
Oh.
I love a good alliteration. So I'm actually going to be interviewing Emily for most of this today because she is the owner, therefore everyone's boss at Visionality Partners. And I really wanted to chat with her today, not necessarily about like why paying people is really good, because, you know, pay is part of it, but also just like how building a good employee experience is really beneficial to organizations for a multitude of reasons. So Emily, I'm going to open up with the question of why should we invest in our people first and our programs second?
I mean, you don't have any programs if you don't have people, right? So,
well, you know, chicken and an egg, you know, depending on who you ask.
Yeah, it is chicken and the egg. For us, turnover is our biggest waste of money possible. And a great way to decrease turnover is to invest in your people. And like you mentioned, that's a lot more than just their salary or their health benefits. It goes way, way, way deeper. That's important. That's like certainly the foundation of investing in your employees, in your people, but there's like so much more than that, than just like that dollar amount on their paycheck.
So but pay and benefits are important, correct? It's not just about having free lunches or blah, blah, blahs, you know, at whatever tech company claims that they have great employee experience or perks. But what is the difference really between like a perk and an investment?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would say that an investment, perks are just like company-wide sparkly things, but an investment really takes like an individual approach to each employee and saying, Christiana, today, what do you need to show up as your best self? Or perhaps even, do I need to kick you out of the office today so that tomorrow you can show up as your best self because you're just not able to do it today? And so like a perk, yeah, having a cafeteria, that sounds cool. Like I would like that, but like, I don't think that addresses how like each of our employees are truly individuals and they require, we're all different flowers and we require different soil and different watering schedules and different sunlight to show up as like in our full bloom. And I think so many companies take the perk approach because it's easier. Like investing in individuals is hard and it actually requires so much trust and vulnerability within a team for me to say, I am not my best today. That's a really vulnerable position. Or, if you're reporting that to your boss, hey boss, who's in charge of hiring and firing, I'm not great today. I'm going to do really easy work. I can't show up to work today. I'm only going to work a half day. I need to go for a walk, like whatever those are. That's a really vulnerable place that an employee puts themselves in. And so it actually takes a ton of investment before that in trust and being really transparent in your company culture. And I think too, like trust between the employees to say like, no, really, you can tell Emily that you're going on a walk in the middle of the day. She'll think that's great. And she does it too. Guess what?
So I think that like starts to touch on a point of like company culture, right? So like, how do you start to kind of establish this culture of trust and this culture that it is okay to go for the walk in the middle of the day, or that it is okay that you can ask, for a part of a day off simply because you're not your best self that day. So start to talk about like what is the how do you build that type of company culture, and also like what are some of the cost benefits of that company, of building a strong healthy company culture.
It's so funny. We joke around with Cecily because anytime we're like, hey, do you have time for a quick meeting? She feels like she's being called into the principal's office and she's sure she's in trouble. And she's never in trouble, never, not once. So now we just kind of joke around as a team where it's like, hey, can we hop on Zoom real quick? No, you're not in trouble. And so we just kind of name that it can sometimes be uncomfortable to get that hey, do you have a minute to chat? And even if you call me, hey, do you have a minute to chat? My heart kind of pumps a little bit and I'm like, oh no, is there bad news coming? So almost preemptively saying it's not bad news has kind of been diffused the pressure a little bit and turned an uncomfortable thing into a funny thing that we now joke about.
It also kind of goes to the fact that we deal with people that come into us from some pretty effed up company cultures. If their first response is, hey, can we talk? If their first response is this absolute Pavlov reaction of oh shit, I'm in trouble, versus no, my boss just wants to talk to me.
My boss is,
and they'd rather not do it on the chat, channel.
That makes me so sad, Christiana. That makes me so sad because you're right. You're exactly right. That immediate fear of oh no, I'm in trouble. We're not born with that. That's created. We call those ghosts, right? In our company. We all in life have ghosts that show up in really surprising ways. So it just makes my heart sad that some of us have those ghosts. We don't deserve those.
No, but let's talk about how poltergeisting, or whatever it is when you clean the ghosts and the evil spirits out of your house. I'm not Catholic, so I don't remember it. But when you start to clean the ghosts out of the closet, yeah, when you burn sage and walk around the house, or when you whatever. So when you start to get these ghosts out of the company culture, what are some of the benefits that you start to see?
I mean, people feel safe showing up, and undoubtedly their productivity goes up and their quality of work goes up.
Why is that important as a business owner or an executive director of a nonprofit?
Money. You'll never find someone who loves money more than this gal. Money is so dang important. And if we are more productive, then we can do more with our money. And by the way, if you are happy, if you feel comfortable, if you feel secure, if you feel supported, you're going to be more productive. And so, kind of the overarching theme that we're talking about is investing in people, not programs, because if you invest in your people, they will do more. And then you are in the end, investing in your programs because you started with your people first.
I think one of the interesting things about investing in people, and as we talk about creating a good employee experience, is that thank you, Scooter, I knew you'd agree with me, but there's also an opportunity to invest in platforms and tools to help make your employees more productive, or to help reduce their stress load. What are some opportunities, or what are ways to think about ways that organizations can start to implement tools to actually help their employees make their jobs a lot easier?
This is such a silly example, but I'm thinking about Canva. So Canva is a very simple graphic design tool. And we waited so long to get a subscription to Canva. And what that meant is that, the paid version has this thing an automatic resize. So if we're doing social content for ourselves or for our clients, before we had the paid version to save money, we were then paying our employees to manually resize social content. And then we invested, what could it possibly be, $15 a month to get that automatic resize. And now all of a sudden, everyone's job is just this much easier. And so there can be this approach to spending and to overhead, which is like reduce, like cut expenses or don't add expenses at all, but you're really doing yourself a disservice because that, yeah, we want to keep as few expenses as possible, but you're still paying for those. You're just paying for it in a different place.
And I think that that's a really interesting like way to frame it, is because time is money, right? And people forget that time is money, even if their employee's time is money. But the employee time is money lost never shows up on like your balance sheet, whereas the expense of some of a tool will show up on a balance sheet. But I think it's very important to realize that if you have an employee that gets paid like $35 an hour and they spend even 2 hours a week resizing social images, you're losing, you're hemorrhaging money on something absolutely ridiculous.
You're losing money and you don't even know that you're losing money because it doesn't show up on your balance sheet. Like,
yeah, well, and your employee is doing really meaty, like really ridiculous work that is below their pay grade. You know, I certainly don't mean to sound crass, but it's like if I'm spending 2 hours a week resizing images for social, like I'm going to be a little tiffy about it after a while, because like A, I hate doing that work, and B, I'd rather click a button and have it done for me so I can actually get on to bigger, better things to do. So as also we're talking about employee satisfaction, I think it's really interesting, like as we're talking about, instead of investing in programs, so instead of expanding the work that you're doing, we're looking at it, in order to actually, for nonprofits or businesses to actually serve more people on a regular basis. This actually goes back to like a theme that we've been talking about a lot, is what's the low hanging fruit and how do you actually just invest more in that low hanging fruit to make it more productive. We talk about this in fundraising, we talk about this like in so many other aspects, and I think the same is very true here. Of like, this is where if your organization wants to serve more people, there is actually power in investing in your current employees to serve more people, because they're being more productive to serve more people instead of chasing money for programs. And so I think that I would also like you to talk about mission creep, as organizations, especially nonprofits, tend to go after grants to get money to serve more people instead of investing in their current staff to make them more efficient and effective to serve more people.
Yeah, we're starting to see this change in grant land, thankfully. Like there seems to be sort of an awakening of funders to make available less restrictive funding, multi-year gifts, fewer but bigger gifts instead of lots of small ones. So we're starting to see that change, but we're really, really not there yet. Those kinds of funders are still really progressive, where, they want to see your flaws so that they can invest in you and help improve those like systemic challenges, versus like the old way, which was, look at how sparkle shiny we are, we're perfect, please give us some money. And then again, you have these, grant programs where it's, the program is funding something that's mission adjacent, but it's not within your mission. And it's going to be single year funding. So you're doing all of this legwork to get that program up, but now you just got to keep it up. But that grant is going to go away. Like multi-year grants are still very, very rare. And so when you use that approach to chase funding and build programs to meet the funding, you never like get on top of it. You never recoup like that startup expense. You never get those efficiencies of like, now we're just maintaining a program, because you're always building and chasing the money. And like, I get it. I get chasing money. We've all done it. But if you instead look at, instead of getting more money, it's increasing productivity so that you can still serve more people. And then really clearly focus, if you're going to write for grants, on unrestricted, larger, multi-year grants. And I know it's hard to not write for things, but it's a waste of time. It's a waste of money. It's not efficient. and then do the education, sit down with your donors and talk to them about why you're choosing to invest in your people, because your people are your programs. They are the magic that serves your mission, vision, values. And so I think it's like so reasonable to sit down with other human beings to say, this human being who sits next to me is doing a great job, and here's how we're going to help her do an even better job.
Mm-hmm. So how do you think, and I don't necessarily want to use the term trickle down effect because like trickle down economics is BS. But if you start with this concept of
Josh is dying.
Josh's reactions are like making my heart sing right now. He also just added me on LinkedIn, which is also my love language. So thanks, Josh. But if you start like this conversation at the top with your donors, with your board, like what do you think are like the timeline for getting it to actually then impact the entire staff?
Ooh, that's a heavy question, my friend, because it talks to our underlying systemic issues in boards and in board.
And what are those?
And in board diversity. Historically, boards are old, white, rich men. That's it. My dog's gonna bark because he's pissed about it too. Scooter. and that, like, you have to have a certain level of personal and financial capacity in order to sit on a board, right? It's work, it takes time. You know, you have to be able to take, oh, now you're gonna have to get on my soapbox so I can make my dog be quiet. And so we see this like big disconnect between the staff serving and the board directing, and they're coming from very different perspectives.
I got it. Go ahead and mute yourself. I got you covered. And so the way that we like to look at it is that like those closest to the problem are closest to the solution. So your staff who are serving your clients or who are, you know, executing your mission, they are the closest to the problem being solved. Therefore, they are also closest to the solution on how to actually do it better. And what is often happening is that boards are directing staff or giving guidance to staff on how they think the mission should be executed. And here, the silly part with this is like, I always take this back to this like classic example of like manufacturing. I know that manufacturing and nonprofits probably seem like two industries that are so far apart from each other. But if you're on you know, a manufacturing line and you're the frontline worker there, you know why things are breaking. Like, you know why production shuts down. You know where the flaws are, and you know how to fix it. Whereas often, and it's the same thing with nonprofits, those people who are executing your mission, who are working with your clients, are also the ones that know how to do it better. And so we see this weird guidance of like boards telling staff what to do instead of staff telling the board what tools they need to actually do this job better. And so I think that that's also part of just like the product, you know, part of the productivity issue as well, is that boards aren't looking at this from a productivity issue. You know, they're trying to solve a different problem, whereas like the staff is really trying to solve a productivity issue because they actually do want to serve more clients. They want to serve them better, but they don't necessarily have the tools to do that. So they try to ask for the tools to do that, but the pushback is overhead, like that we don't want to spend that kind of money, or we don't want to invest in you. And so it ends up being this very strange like disconnect, because the boards often are not touching the mission the way that the staff is touching the mission, yet they're calling the shots. And I think that there needs to be this really good shift of like staff actually educating the board on how they execute the mission and what tools they need to be more productive and to provide an even better level of service, especially when your mission is human to human based.
Well, and that reminds me of this like really awesome story where you and I were doing like a strategy call while you were driving in the car with Dave. And when we hung up, Dave said to you, it sounds like you're just spending all of Emily's money. And you're like, yeah, that's my job. Because
Dave's my husband.
Dave is the husband. And because, and then that just like goes back to the beginning, speaking about trust. Like, I trust that you and I and you, me and the rest of the team are all pulling in the same direction, and I trust you to tell me what's working and what's not working. And then it's my job as the leader to fix it. Like, it's just so simple, you know? And I think
And I think
I'm
I also
curious-
want to talk about like one of the big steps we took this year for offering health insurance. And I think a lot of small organizations are really afraid to take this step, like whether it's a small business or a small nonprofit, they're really afraid to kind of take that step. And like, you know, I actually kind of want you to talk through the process that like you've been going through to offer health benefits, you know, to your employees and what that's been like for you as a business owner, or like the same, you know, chair as an executive director might be sitting in.
Terrifying, expensive, scary, confusing. Offering health benefits is really hard, guys, turns out. Yeah, it's really scary and hard, and it is really expensive. And so we had to take the approach of something's better than nothing. It's a step in the right direction, and really sort of checking ourselves that, yes, I want to be the best place to work. And that includes the best health insurance, because I don't want anyone to have to worry about going bankrupt because, you know, they get in a car accident or something. And that, I do believe that kind of safety net will increase productivity for our employees to just feel financially secure. Like health insurance is wealth insurance, full stop. So like that is a critical component of having a secure team. And we, you know, it's about like even offering for a company of our size, and like there are so many ways that you get to the cost of health insurance based on your company size, but even to offer 50% of a bronze plan averages out to $250 a month per employee. That is money. That is really real money. And it's not like we just magically have all that money sitting in the bank. If we did, I'd be paying everyone more, because that's how we run our company. And I know that we have to figure out how to handle this investment because it is the best thing for our team. It demonstrates our values. It is going to help them feel safe and secure and build wealth for themselves and their families. And so it really is, you know, we're about to celebrate our 10-year anniversary, and I wrote 10 things I learned in 10 years to be released shortly. And one of them is sometimes you just got to leap, and it's terrifying. And I know I'm really good at my job, and you're really good at your job, and our whole team is really good at their jobs, and we're just gonna figure it out. And so like, yes, it's comforting to have all your ducks in a row, and, you know, but sometimes you just have to leap. And that is part of being a leader and trusting in yourself that you're gonna find a way to figure it out because it's important to you.
So I think the last thing that I want to talk about today within our last 3 minutes is how this company culture, how investing in your people, how making sure that you have a really solid ROI on your employee experience. How does that impact your ability to recruit? How does it impact your ability to just like things that are completely intangible, but are also really important to a bottom line?
We have people asking us, and because they want to work with us. They've heard about us. They have researched what's on our website. They've stalked us on LinkedIn. You know, they see how transparent we are about our company mission, vision, values, which goes way farther than the tasks that we do and the organizations that we do those things for. And so we have recently had 2 rounds of hiring, and we had, and these are like mid-level positions, right? They're not entry level, they're mid-level. So we're really looking for someone, you know, 3, 4, 5 years of experience. And we've had executive directors apply for these mid-level positions. And to me, that demonstrates the value that people are putting on company culture and trust and support over a title. So these are people who are willing to in title sense, take a step backwards in their career trajectory because they're valuing company culture and team and those intangible benefits that aren't salary and aren't insurance.
So any final thoughts? I think we have about 30 seconds left on this. Oh, we have a minute left. So any parting thoughts on this other than we do have an open position for project coordinators. So if you're interested, please apply. Or if you know a friend that is pretty awesome, please let them apply. And second, the other hit that I wanted to do is in 2 weeks, we're going to be doing a slightly different building forward. We're going to be doing it at the lunchtime hour, and we're actually going to be doing a panel discussion on the future of philanthropy. We actually have some pretty heavy hitters that are going to be joining us, but they are millennials in the nonprofit space. So we're going to be talking about avocado toast, side parts, and skinny jeans. But we're actually really looking forward to that. We'll be announcing our panel by the end of this week. So those are those two like pushes that I wanted to make sure that we hit on today. But like any parting thoughts just on what employee experience and employee investment does for bottom lines?
Well, I think what I want to say is it's scary, it's expensive, you're never done. So just start. Just find one thing to change. And I really loved what we came around to earlier, which was employees are individuals. There we go, we're done. Employees are individuals and you need to treat them as such and find out really what is important to each human on your team and give them the individual tools that they need to show up as their best selves. And it's not going to be uniform across your team. So just start, just do something. Play along with
you don't have to solve.
Week.
Yeah, we're doing Fat Bear Week just for fun.
Play along with Fat Bear Week. I'm going to win. And the prize, I'm going to win. And the prize is overnight fresh salmon because we're on brand. And I'm going to win. For today, play along with Fat Bear Week.
So that's our 25-minute conversation for the day. If anybody has questions or just wants to chat, let us know. We are here. Otherwise, we will see you in 2 weeks for our Future of Philanthropy panel discussion taking place during the lunch hour. That should be, I'm hoping that that'll be incredibly spicy because we have some really exciting people joining us for that. But otherwise, everyone, thank you so much for your time, effort, and energy today. We super appreciate seeing you, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Bye, y'all.